speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Wednesday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig, Scotty Mincher, and you know what Wednesdays apparently bring Anthony's coughing. Wednesdays bring Wrestling Wednesdays with Gary Altizer, who is with us as well. Have a little treat for you guys today as we had an interview with Jake Starkey, one of the top wrestlers in the state from South Range. Interviewed him about a half an hour ago. We're going to play that, and then we'll come back and talk even more wrestling on Running Point. So enjoy this interview with Jake Starkey. Hello, welcome into Wrestling Wednesdays. It brings us another great interview with a state-ranked wrestler, Jake Starkey from South Range, joining us here. Jake, thank you so much for the time, bud.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I can't wait to talk about some things. It's going to be good.
My first question is, when you started your high school career, did you have any kind of inkling that you would be sitting here with a possibility of having like 3 state championship trophies that you're able to kind of hold up by the end of your high school career?
No, it's so hard to believe. Starting my freshman year, I just didn't know what to expect. It's hard to believe that, in the past 4 years, past 3.5 years, I guess, you won 2 state titles and, you could potentially win another one. All that hard work really paid off. And, I'm really looking forward to the future.
Well, Jake, I know you were ranked first a couple weeks ago. You're ranked third right now. I mean, I'm taking a wild guess here, but I'm guessing the state championship is your number one goal.
Yeah.
Other than that, what are your goals for the rest of the season?
For the rest of the season, other than, obviously state champs, both team dual state champs, I want to really be individual state champion, really working forward towards that. So far that's pretty much it. Those are my goals for now.
All right, so we have to talk about one of your milestones early on in the season. We see a lot of wrestlers get 100 wins in their career. You got 100 pins in your high school career. What was that moment like? I mean, it's something that we don't see too often. What was that moment like for you?
Again, it's hard to believe that, over the past 3.5 years that you get 100 pins. Only like top 50. There's only like 105 is like top 50 in Ohio and like all of history in wrestling. So it's a huge accomplishment. Not a lot of people get 100 pins towards their senior year. So yeah, it's a really good accomplishment.
Jake, what's it like? So what's a different feeling winning a state championship with wrestling compared to football? I mean, I'm sure both have they're both amazing feelings, but with wrestling being the first one, what was it like as a team? I watched it. I saw Colucci. He got that win at 215. That kid made a mistake, sat on his butt, and he pancaked him right to his back. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine what was it like for you guys in that moment.
It was such an emotional moment for all of us. I was behind one of our previous senior wrestlers. I gave him a big hug. I was whispering in his ear, like, I can't believe we just did it. We won a state title. I kept repeating the same thing over and over again in his ear. We won. It was so overwhelming. It was so it was so much to take in. It was such a good experience to have with the other guys. But yeah, relatively football and wrestling state champions are about the same. They show just about as much emotion. The accomplishment is just as good as if you were any other state championship.
Great
Do you feel
follow-up
like
to
that helped prepare you, emotionally, get your head right for that championship game with the football team?
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, we all had the same goals and we all wanted to work towards it. So yeah, I guess it did kind of get me ready for football and all that. I didn't really get part of the question.
Well, I just wanted just the mentality, did it, you kind of maybe were a little bit more calm because you've been on a big stage before and you were able to do it. You're able to pull through. So you see sometimes, people will they'll get worked up and they'll kind of not play their best, do their best. But since you guys had already been there with the wrestling, just wondered if that kind of helped you be headstrong and more confident in that game.
Oh, yeah. Not a lot of people won a state championship in South Range yet. When you walk on the field and you got a state title behind your back, you're about to win another one.
Right.
Yeah, definitely gave me some confidence. It definitely kept me calm. I was always ready to, let loose, I guess.
So here's the big question. You got the win last year in the state championship. How has this team stayed hungry? And what's the mentality like now that you're trying to repeat and you're trying to go back with everyone having the target on your back now this year?
It's hard to explain that because you got all these new guys now. They know you want a state championship, but now you got to get everyone else on the same page, right? So it's like all the new guys. The seniors aren't. The previous seniors aren't here anymore. So now it's our job to keep everybody in pace, and we got to keep everybody in check now. Like now it's my turn to keep pushing these guys because if we don't start pushing each other now, then I don't know how we're gonna make it in the state duels. Because that's what's important to me right now. I really want to make it the state duels. I want to win it again because I really think we can. It wouldn't be so bad to be have 3 on me, right? So yeah, that's the plan.
So when you look at some of the things that you think is going to take to reach that goal, you've already talked about keeping everybody together, keeping people on the same page. What are some other things that you think this team needs to do to get themselves into that position again?
A couple things is we got to trust each other. I think that's a huge thing. Trust. We gotta be comfortable. We gotta be more comfortable around each other. We gotta we always gotta be supporting each other. Any aspect in a wrestling match or a wrestling duel, we just gotta be there for each other. We gotta believe in each other. You have a team like that, you can pretty much do anything.
In the practice room, Jake, who is your main drilling partner? I don't think this is talked about enough. Every good wrestler has a good drilling partner, and that partner can make a big difference in you and how you perform. So, who is your go-to guy in the room?
Tyson Seaschultz. He's a freshman. He just won a state championship, OAC. So yeah, he's a really good drilling partner. I think he's top 8 in the state right now at 150. So yeah, he's a really good drilling partner. He shows a lot of emotion. He's just a great drilling partner. He always tells me if I do something wrong and then I can correct it. He always wants to go hard at when we're going live. Yeah, he's just a great drilling partner.
Jake, I just wanted to know when it comes to your wrestling style, the way you attack, I just wanted to know who's been the most influential person other than maybe your coach, but give me somebody else that's been the most influential in your life in your early wrestling career.
I gotta say it's probably my dad. Hold on, I gotta go to a different device. My Chromebook's about to die. Can I go on my phone real quick, and then I can answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so sorry about that. I'm so sorry about that, guys. I don't want to keep you guys waiting.
You're all good. We'll just pop you out here, and then you can re-enter on your phone. So while well, actually, no, we know. I like it. Good.
There we go. All back. Hold up. All right, that's better.
Much
All
better.
right, so back to the question. You said who was the most influential? Probably my dad. He's always been a huge supporter of me. He's always been, he always gives me all these life lessons. He's always telling me, hey, you gotta be a leader. Hey, you gotta be a good role model for all these guys. Me and my dad are really alike. You share, we share the same accomplishments. When he was coaching in high school football at, like I said, Henry, he won 2 state championships, one in 2004, one in 2006. I always wanted to follow under his footsteps because how awesome would it be to have two on you? And the other thing is too is just uh, again, my dad has just been a huge supporter of me, and I don't know where I would be without him.
Jake, at the beginning of the season, Gary talked a lot about how wrestling shape and football shape are at different ends of the spectrum, and it's so different to be in wrestling shape compared to football shape. With such a long, grueling state championship season in football, what was it like to come off that and get right into wrestling where you have such high expectations in that sport as well?
It was super hard coming back into wrestling first week because I was so out of shape. I couldn't drill for like about 15, 30 seconds without stopping it. Football and wrestling shape are definitely not the same. It definitely takes some time, but after that, after you work on it for a bit, you get used to it. It's adapting. That's all it is.
So Jake, last year you went 1-2 at the state tournament, and I'm sure that's probably been bothering you, and being that you got that state championship in mind. So this year, when you go in, do you have some kind of focus? Is it winning the first match? Is it just keeping yourself loose? How are you going to be mentally prepared this year when you go to Columbus?
You know, one thing my coaches always told me was to don't ever look up. So many people in those stands, there's like thousands of people who are watching all these other wrestlers. One thing they told me was just to never look up. Hey, Jake, you're the best on your feet in the state of Ohio. Have some confidence, believe in yourself. Don't ever doubt yourself. You know, think about what your game plan is before a match. That's the kind of stuff I usually think about all the time before my matches. I think if I do that, I think I'll wrestle great.
We've talked about your 100 pins and all the wins that you've racked up. You've been able to wrestle so many great athletes. Is there one win that sticks out to you as like, man, this win is one that I got that will always be in my memory bank?
Um, I haven't had enough of those yet, but like maybe towards the season I will. I've only had like one difficult match so far, but there definitely will be some close matches that will, like you said, will be worth winning, worth showing to everybody like what I'm made of. But yeah, I see what you're saying. But yes, I haven't really had those yet.
So do you think you said Tice Seashores, he's your drilling partner? I
Yes.
remember when you came in as a freshman, you kind of came in, like I don't know, you were a firecracker as soon as you come in there, man. You were pinning seniors, and you were coming out of nowhere. And I can remember asking one of your teammates, I said, "Starkey a freshman?" They said, "Yeah." Do you think he reminds you a lot of yourself? Just coming into that middleweight. The middleweights are tough. That's where the athletic juniors and seniors are. So to come in the middleweight and to be doing as well as he's doing, does he remind you of yourself a couple of years ago?
Honestly, yeah. Yeah. Tyson's doing a great job, and I yeah. There's pretty much, I don't know how else to say it. He's doing a really good job. He's doing what he's told to do. Just as much as you expect of every other good athlete on our team.
All right, Jake. So you got to take us through a typical match day routine. What's it like for you on match day? What are some of the things that you try to stick to and try to keep yourself in routine with?
One thing I always try doing is that I don't try. I have problem with confidence sometimes. I think a lot of people do too. And I always try to think about like what I've accomplished, what I've done. I always think about like all the things I've done in my life, and I try to build confidence before a match, and I try to build even like adrenaline sometimes. Sometimes things get me pumped up. I move around, I jump around, I shake my hands. I sometimes I tell myself that I'm going to put on a show for everybody to watch me, wrestle, and it just hypes me up. And right before a match, that's when I do it.
Okay, so one more question for you here. Who would you consider your biggest rival this year? You probably had some others who have graduated, but is there anybody that you maybe go back and forth with, or that that you're going to end up seeing here soon? That's going to be a big match for you.
Probably Justin Fox. He's from Waterloo. I wrestled a couple times already. Haven't beaten him yet. He just recently dropped down to 157. So yeah, that'll be a good match. He's top 2 right now, I think. Last time I checked. So yeah, that'll be a good match. We'll probably see each other at EOWL or Hefner. Don't know what way he's gonna go, but whatever happens, happens, and we're just gonna go and wrestle. But yeah, that's probably one of the guys I'm looking forward to wrestling this year.
All right, Jake, thank you again for your time. Before we let you go, I do want to give you the chance to shout out your support system and all the people that have kind of been there for you throughout your career and that have had your back throughout your 4 years.
Yeah, I just want to shout out to my coaches, my teammates, and even my football guys, my football coaches, my family. For all just being there for me and always believing in me and supporting me. I wouldn't really be here without you guys, and I'm really grateful for everything you guys have done for me. So thank you so much.
All right, Jake, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate you hopping on in the middle of the day to talk with us about your wonderful wrestling career and everything you've been able to accomplish. We wish you the best of luck the rest of the way. We'll be covering you, and we can't wait to talk again real soon.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you later.
Jake Starkey from the South Range joining us for our interview portion of Wrestling Wednesdays. One of the top wrestlers in the state right now, ranked 3 in his weight class. Gary, what were some of your takeaways from that interview and listening to Jake talk about not just his career, but some of his goals for this season?
He was very honest. That was the first thing that jumped out at me. Everything that he said is absolutely 100% true. And I liked how he said that he sometimes battles with self-confidence. I don't think that's something that's talked enough about in the sport. A lot of times, kids, they second guess themselves. When you're out there on the mat, it's you by yourself and, just you and your opponent. Sometimes you can get in your own head and you have no one else to rely on. So it can really take a toll on you if you're starting to overthink things. So he was just honest. He said that, and he talked about what his dad told him, that he was the best in the state on his feet, and he tries to think about those things. How his coaches said, don't look up. You get into a big stage like the state tournament, and if you look up and you see 15,000 people there, I could see how, you're all get caught up in the moment, or you just, oh man, am I really supposed to be here? Am I good enough to be here? Those are the kind of things that go through a kid's head. So I really liked how honest he was, and how much he just kind of he just talked like a kid that wrestles. You could tell that he loves the sport. You can tell that the sport is important to him, but for as good as he is, he was very humble. So it was just nice to see a kid be honest like that and talk about the sport in a genuine way.
It just goes to show you that confidence isn't all about how much success you have. You could be one of the most successful wrestlers that we've seen with 100 pins and still have some trouble with being confident in your own abilities out there on the mat. It's just something that I think is a misnomer. Well, how could he struggle with confidence? He's got 100 pins in his career. Well, it's not exactly success-based. Sometimes it's just something that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to everybody. I remember Cale Sanderson in an interview once said that in college he struggled with some mental things and confidence. And this is a guy that didn't lose a single match his entire college career and really didn't have a close match. A close match in college is not what you think of in high school. Most college matches are quote close, but he really didn't have anybody that really challenged him. So if a guy like that can have confidence problems and problems with doubting himself, it can happen to anyone, and it does not matter how good you are. We all get up and have bad days or days where we don't feel our best or feel like we can do or accomplish something that we have a task in front of us. So you are absolutely right. It doesn't matter.
And that was a great interview. We look forward to continuing those segments on Wrestling Wednesdays as we try to highlight as many wrestlers and coaches around the area as we can this season. We'll look forward to next week with that. But Gary, now we've had a whole week of wrestling. I'm sure there are a lot of results that came in. Do you have any results that really stuck out to you in the last week?
No, not this week. There was for some reason that second weekend in January there isn't a lot going on except for the Top Gun tournament, the Alliance Top Gun tournament. That did happen this past weekend. That is a really big tournament. It used to be one of the toughest in the country. It's still a pretty big tournament. I can't remember how many teams were there. There had to have been like 30 or 40 teams there. There was a couple of locals that were there. I know Alliance had a champion there, and I seen on their, I think it was their Facebook page, they posted it had been the first one in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there really wasn't much going on. Everything is kind of the snowball effect of what's going to happen. The rest of the season starts this weekend now. The OVAC tournament is coming up this weekend. Next weekend is the EOWL tournament, and then you have league tournaments. And then people are finishing up their dual schedule, getting ready for sectionals. So
it's a little the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
As generals like to say on the battlefield. When you think about that Top Gun, though, like I think it's the first time in the last 2 years that they've been able to have it because obviously COVID canceled it. And I think last year they were about to have it and they had to cancel it last minute, if I remember right, because I think we previewed it, we were ready for it, and then the day before they came out and said, hey, we can't do this, someone came down with something or whatever it may be, and they had to cancel it again last year. So good to see that back. Anytime that there can be a big event hosted by a school, no matter what the sport, it's big for everyone that shows up there, but it's also big for that school to be able to call themselves one of the top spots to host that event. And I'm sure Alliance is really proud that they're able to do that again and be one of the premier spots in the wrestling season.
Yeah. Not to mention this is the year that Top Gun returned to theaters. So
Yeah.
have a name like that for a wrestling tournament, I guess the timing is pretty good for it to come back.
I never put that together with the fact that they're the Aviators, and that now totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
Scotty, Ant's not the sharpest tool in the shed sometimes, huh?
I was like, Take your shot, Scotty. Do it.
Okay, yeah.
Come on.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I do kind of carry.
Yeah,
you do. I mean, he's really got the show on his back. He has the best questions in the interviews.
You got your back sore probably most days, huh,
I know.
Scotty?
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the big dog results this week. We had Dominic Pagan from Poland win this week, and we talked about it a little bit last week when we were previewing all the names. I know you know him pretty well, and you've seen him wrestle a couple of times here and there. What do you think makes him a big dog now that we can say that he won? Go into some little bit more specifics about what makes Dom so special.
Yeah, so we wrestled at the same tournament they did the first weekend here this month at the Jackson Milton tournament. We actually wrestled him. He took first place. He won 3 matches that were pretty close. He was able to get a lead and then keep a lead. He's a big muscular kid, and he just kind of worked while he was on the mat. He worked the whole time he was there. I was looking up some of his results, and I might be mistaken, but I don't think he even wrestled last year. So if he did wrestle, he didn't wrestle very much because he didn't have any results that I could find. I could be totally mistaken, but I couldn't find anything from him with Poland last year. So if he didn't wrestle last year, or he didn't wrestle as much, he's really coming out and having a good season here his senior year. I saw his sophomore year, he wrestled 170, so he's kind of at the same weight. He was a state alternate. He got 5th place at the districts that year. So if he is dusting off the cobwebs, if he is trying to get back into, wrestling mode, maybe he was injured last year. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. But he's grinding through a lot of 6-minute matches, going all 3 periods. And that's exactly what you would need to do to get ready to make a run at the postseason. And I'm sure being a state alternate as a sophomore, senior year, his goal is to get to Columbus and get on the podium.
And so impressive, and that's why it's so nice to see him win a big dog coming back from missing junior season to coming back and doing what he's doing so far in his senior year. Gary, the big dogs for this week haven't been announced yet, but they will be very soon with the nominees for this week. Got a question for you since we don't have names to talk about. Who are some names that you haven't seen pop up on the list that you're hoping pop up before the season ends?
Call me selfish, but I have we want, Mason Sims was the big dog of the Valley the first week, I believe, that the first week of wrestling this year. I have a wrestler. His name's Ty Rambo. He's 18-1 right now. Just like what we were just talking about, he missed last year. He missed his sophomore year with some injuries. He was not able to wrestle, and he's been itching to get back on the mat. And he's really come out having a great season. He lost one match by 1 point and later avenged that loss at that Jackson Milton tournament in the championship match. He's gone 18-1. He is the 7th seed at the OVAC tournament this weekend. That's one that maybe we'll see on the list at some point coming down. Southern Local has a couple of really good wrestlers. Gabe Blissenbach, Aiden Spollinger, and Wyatt Morris. I'm not sure if they've been on there yet, but all three of them I think are deserving. East Liverpool as well. Johnny Bailey, Damon Stansberry. There are a couple of kids there that really should be on the list. Eric Williams. I don't know if these guys have been on the list, but I don't think that any of these guys have won. So those are the names that come off the top of my head there as I think about it. And, of course, we could name a whole bunch of people from South Range, Austintown, Fitch, Boardman. But those are the ones that I can think of right now off the top of my head. And I think that the cream is going to rise to the top as this season goes on. With the OVAC and EOWL coming around, we're going to see those kids that maybe haven't gotten attention. They will, because they're going to be winning matches and placing and maybe winning some of these bigger tournaments and getting more attention.
One name that pops up that I think I wouldn't mind seeing win big dogs, Hovarth from Louisville. He's a reigning state champion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
He's probably a favorite to win this year.
Yes. I mean, heck yeah, that's another team in Louisville. They probably got 5 or 6 guys that are deserving every week. I haven't heard much from them this year, but I know that they still have a stacked roster, and they're probably still going to be having 4, 5, 6 guys on the top 8 in the podium there at Columbus coming up here soon. So we'll see. I'll probably have a better idea of some names that kind of pop through this weekend here coming up. I'll be in Wheeling for the OVAC tournament. Just looked up some stats. There are 452 wrestlers at this tournament this weekend. There will be 43 schools represented in a 3-day event. And I know at one time it was the largest conference tournament in the country. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but the tournament's so big that they rent out West Banco Arena in Wheeling for 3 days. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it starts tomorrow with the opening round at 6 p.m.
Yeah, talk a little bit. We were talking before the show went on about what kind of atmosphere that is and what it's like to go down there and be a part of it. Can you put into words what it's like to kind of be a part of that atmosphere and look up and see such a big arena and be able to play in it?
Oh, it's super exciting. It's a great tournament to be in. It's I'm thankful that we're in the conference and that we're able to go there every year. It's a minor league hockey arena. I think it seats like 5,000 people. So it's a big arena. The finals are televised. They'll be on WTRF.com at 3:15, I think, on Saturday. So it's a big deal. It's a big arena. It's all those schools. You get to see kids from Ohio and West Virginia and from several different divisions. I think the biggest school in the OVAC has something like 2,000 kids in their high school. So, I mean, it's one of the biggest schools. I think it's Morgantown High School in West Virginia. They might even have more than that. I'm not sure. But coming from us, where we got 50 to 55 kids a grade, to a school like that has 500, that's how varied it is and how diverse. You got from small schools, and there's schools smaller than us there as well, all the way to these schools that really are the size. These high schools are the size of some small colleges.
I know Mason Sims is going to have a good shot. He's one of the top seeds, but I'm looking and I'm seeing Warren local senior Haley Snyder trying to become the first female OVAC champion, and that might be someone that gives him a little bit of a push.
Yeah, Mason's the number 1 seed. It's the first time Wellsville's had a number 1 seed in 8 years. We had a champion in 2015, Seth Bloor. I think he was seeded first at that tournament. So yeah, Mason is seeded first. Haley is an amazing wrestler, and she placed last year in the OVAC, the first time ever for a female to place. I think that she was 7th place at the 113-pound weight class, and now she's down to 106. She's won a couple of state championships, girls' state championships. She is one of the most fundamentally sound wrestlers I've ever watched in high school. She knows where to be in every position, and the fact that she's wrestling in such a hard tournament like this with the boys just shows that she is up for the competition. I'll be excited to see how she does this weekend. She's on the other side of the bracket from Mason. So if she is able to get through the semifinals, win her semifinal match, and Mason is the same, then we'll meet in the finals. So it's going to be a fun weekend for sure.
And then Beaver Local, who is a team that we talk about a lot, they have a freshman, Robert Bucci, that might be their best chance to put someone on the top of the podium. A freshman coming into that OVAC and one of the favorites for them. So Beaver Local has a wrestler there that might give them a good shot as well.
Yeah, Beaver Local has, I got the numbers here. Beaver Local has 8 seeds for the YSN schools. Southern has 3. We have 2. Edison, East Liverpool, both, I believe, have 4. Those are all the ones that the YSN schools that I could remember off the top of my head. But the Buhite kid from East Liverpool, he is very good. He's a tough wrestler. He's got a lot of experience. He's been wrestling his whole life. And I know the people within that Beaver Local program believe he can be a 4-time state placer, get on the podium 4 times there in Columbus. So they believe that he's really got a chance to do some special things. This will be the first chance I'll get to see Beaver Local this year. So I'll be interested to see how that team does. It's a very young Beaver Local team, but they still have tough wrestlers in nearly every weight class. And I'm sure that they'll be in the running for the top of to win their class there in the OVC. The OVAC has 4 different classes in wrestling.
Young team, but I'm sure having senior Zane McCoy is a big boost for them to have at least one senior pin. I think he's talking about 3rd seeded in his weight class for Beaver Local. So having that one senior that's really a staple to your program is got to be good for a young team.
Oh yeah. McCoy, he was a placer last year. We actually wrestled him in the finals. He's been around the Beaver program for a while. He's a classic heavyweight. He looks like a heavyweight. He's built like a heavyweight. He wrestles like a heavyweight, and he's been there before. You got a room full of freshmen and sophomores on the team. That's definitely good for them to see a senior who's been there and done this already. It'd be good for them to look up to him.
8 returning champions in the OVAC tournament this weekend. So eight wrestlers that were champions last year coming back for trying to repeat as a champion this year. So it'll be a fun one for our YSN teams to try to knock off maybe some reigning champions and get on the podium because none of those 8, I believe, are YSN schools. I think they're all non-YSN teams, if I'm not mistaken. I know Oakland has one.
Yeah, Oakland, one of the best teams there in West Virginia, right across a stone's throw from East Liverpool. Just a quick shot across the bridge. You're in Bear Country over there. They got a really great tradition going there. They have a 113-pounder who's a returning champ from last season. But of all the YSN schools, Buhite kid will definitely he has a chance to win it. But I think Eric Williams really he really could be in that finals. His brother has won a couple OVAC championships. So it'll be interesting to see how Eric does. He did not get to wrestle last year. He was hurt last year. And then I think the year before that, there was no OVAC tournament because of COVID. So I'm sure that he's pretty excited to see what he can do and carry on that Williams tradition to bring home a championship.
It's going to be a real fun weekend. We're looking forward to it. Scotty, you got any last thoughts for Gary before we let him go?
Yeah, I do have one question for you, Gary. You and Anthony, and I think it's a good way. It got me thinking of something I find interesting. I wanted your take on. You and Anthony were talking about the people that come out and support these wrestlers and the huge crowds at some of these events, the big fans. So, and we've talked about a lot on shows in the past, home field advantage in football, home court in basketball. Do you think fans that show up at these matches, do you think the crowd has just as much a significant impact in wrestling as it does in, say, basketball or football? And if you had to put a percentage on it, how much the crowd could affect a match, what would you think it would be?
I think it might even be more of a factor in wrestling because you are by yourself. And if you're wrestling in a duel, you know, a tournament, you could have several matches going on. But if you're wrestling in a duel at your home place where everybody's watching you, I mean, I've seen just from my kids alone, the effort that they give sometimes at home in a match, at a duel match, the effort and the will and the drive that they have is definitely more than, you know, they can sometimes have in away matches or in tournaments where there's so much going on. When all the eyes are on you, just you and your opponent, and everybody's watching, and it's your home community there. You know, with a team sport, obviously it hypes people up. But if you got multiple people out there at once, you know, not all the attention's on you, but when all the attention is on you, all the eyes are on you, everybody is just watching you and what you're doing on the mat. I feel like it could, what percent? I mean, I don't know. It'd be hard to say, but I could definitely tell you that I've seen kids put in twice the effort at a home match in a duel in front of their community than I've seen at other places. And I'm not just talking about mine. I mean, everywhere. When you go and wrestle some place and it's their home match, I tell my kids all the time, look, they're going to be given 1,000%. They do not want to lose, especially if it's a big match, if there are a lot of people there watching, if it's a rivalry. I'm just telling my guys that, hey, you're going to have to put just as much effort in out there because these guys are pumped up and they want to win in front of their home crowd.
All right, Gary, it was a great week. We love having you on like we do every week. Can't wait to recap that OVAC next week when you come on Wednesday. It's going to be a fun one. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for coming on for episode 5 of Wrestling Wednesdays.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
All right, Gary Altizer. I can't believe it's episode 5 already. It's our 5th week of Wrestling Wednesdays with Gary. The season is going along quickly, and after that OVAC, we have the EOWL, and then we got conference wrestling, and then all of a sudden we're going to be right into the thick of the tournament, Scotty.
Yeah, man. As the old saying goes, time flies when you're having fun.
Time like that. It does fly. Fly like an eagle, man. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Scotty's got a lot in his mind that he wants to talk about. We'll probably talk some area basketball and preview the night that is going to be on the network tonight as well. We'll be right back on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
And welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. As always, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig with my boy Scotty Mincher. Scotty, you always have a lot on your mind. What's on your noggin today?
I do. I do. I was psyched coming in here today, psyched to, hear your thoughts and catch up on everything, YSN. And we talked about, you talked about a little bit about it off the air with Gary, and we talked about it before Running Point today. You talked about the three buzzer beaters that we had.
Okay, if we want to be technical, 2 buzzer beaters and 1 almost buzzer beater with a second left on the clock. But
and
3 game-winning shots with the clock winding down.
And the one with the 1 second was the South Range game.
Nate Lewis, and it capped the 12-0 run to end that game. South Range came back from being down 10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, also Landon Moore had a really nice game for South Range as well. So I believe it pushes their winning streak to 5 games in a row now.
5 games. So they've won 5 of the last 6.
They are on fire right now.
And fuego.
On a good roll. And it was a good Struthers team that they definitely got the win over. It wasn't a team that's, considered a slouch by any means.
No.
So, and they really did a good job on Struthers defensively and on their best player. But I just wanted to know from you, what's the most impressive thing for you from South Range during this stretch? Since you were at the game last night, you covered the game, and then what's something that you think, maybe they're getting away with it now because they're winning, but it's maybe something they could improve on?
Well, first of all, about the game last night, like both teams were playing extremely good defense. It was a defensive game. Remember when you asked me either last week or one of the weeks, like, what kind of basketball do you prefer watching? And I said, I don't care if low scoring or high scoring, as long as it's clean basketball.
You just want good, clean basketball.
Last night was a good example of a low scoring game that was pretty clean. It was just really good defense. And both teams did it in a little bit of different ways. Struthers packed it in and tried to stop South Range from getting inside because they knew that's where the Raiders score most of their points. They're not a particularly, phenomenal 3-point shooting team. They like to score in the paint a little bit more. And South Range put ball pressure on Struthers and kind of ran them off the 3-point line. Just one little stretch there in the third quarter where the Wildcats were able to get a couple of threes. But other than that, they held the Wildcats well below their normal 3-point percentage, especially Nick Delgrado, who you talked about, the Struthers' absolute, talent, phenom, best player. South Range was able to hold him to 6 points, which is a big key in beating the Wildcats. Now, they had other players step up and score for them, which made it a close game, especially McCullough came in and scored and led them. So, they had other players step up, props to the Wildcats, but South Range just never backed down. They were down by 10. The tempo that game was going, 10 points, felt like it was a huge mountain to climb because it was such a slow – actually, it was a fast game, but the offenses were slow and patient. So no one was scoring quickly, and no one was scoring in bunches. But I'll tell you what, South Range all of a sudden, maybe the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, put together a 12-0 run to win it. So – it was impressive. One thing that I think South Range is kind of getting back to, and it's been successful in the program for a while, is the defensive side of the basketball. South Range for the last 5 years, when they've won games, it's because they've held teams down. They've never been a fantastic offense that blows people out and scores 70 points per game, even for the last 5 years. They've always been a team that wins with defense and holds people below their average and maybe wins a lot of games, 50 to 40 in that kind of scoring range. So getting back to the defensive fundamentals and being able to put ball pressure on and being able to play clean defense. They didn't get a lot of fouls last night. I think that's what's going to be the key for South Range moving forward. They have to realize they're not an offensive team. They don't have the player that's going to play takeover basketball and score 30 points in a game. They're just not built that way. They have to win with defense, and right now they're buying into that, and they're playing really good defense in this 5-game win streak.
And it's a great win if you're a Struthers fan or you play for Struthers or you're a coach. That's a really tough loss. Bitter pill to swallow.
It is, because you had it. Those games where you feel like you had, like I said, a 10-point lead in the way that game was going. If there was win probability in high school that like ESPN does, it would be like 98% win probability for Struthers with a 10-point lead. The way the tempo that game was going at, and like I said, the offenses were being pretty patient. They were taking 30 seconds, 40 seconds to score. You felt like when Struthers went up by 10 in the fourth, you felt like, okay, they got control of this game, but it wasn't to be. They kind of let it go. Their offense, for the last 5 minutes went cold, and unfortunately for them, that's going to be one that kind of sticks in their mind, is one that they felt like slipped right through their fingers.
And you know what? The negative about it is, nobody's gonna feel sorry, take sympathy on you, but it's also
Gerard on Friday.
In the same token, it's a chance for them to get back on track, for them to rebound. Like you said, a big matchup hosting Gerard coming up, and then for they have Gerard, and South Range is going to be tested again with Niles coming in. So what do you think are going to be some keys in those matchups?
Well, for Struthers, I think their key is to get their offensive players going. Like, they have to find ways to get players like Nick Delgrada some space so he can kind of do his thing on offense, and then continue playing good defense. They played really good defense last night, and they held their team. Anytime you held the team to 38 points, you're doing something right. That should be a win, right? So keep playing really good defense. You got to lock down Thomas Cordero and Gus Johnson. That's where Gerard makes their money. Those two players doing their thing. So you got to lock those two down. Easier said than done, because they're very good basketball players. But you got to lock those two, get those two down first and foremost. For South Range, not to beat the drum, but it's the same thing. You got to keep playing really good defense. Niles comes in, a very talented team. Sam Perone is having a really good year for them. So you got to just go and play good defense. Lock down their best player like you did with Struthers, and try to get points when you can. And realize you're not going to hit every shot. You got to be patient on offense. Get the best look possible. And when the threes present themselves, it'd be nice if the Raiders knock them down. But you don't have to. You can't fall in love with the three if you're South Range. And I felt like in the beginning stretch of the season, they kind of rushed their offense, and they were kind of settling for those low percentage shots that were hurting their offense, not letting them score as well as they could.
And there's always things, any game, it's obvious, any sport you talk about on any level, even the highest levels, no one ever plays or coaches a perfect game. So there's always things you could improve on. But I think, Anthony, that sometimes something that kind of gets lost in everything when you talk about these games against good teams, and we gotta at least find a way to contain this guy or neutralize him somehow, or we gotta rebound better or play better team defense. But sometimes, just like Struthers did last night, you could play pretty good defense, or really good, and the other team just a little better or better at the more crucial moment.
Right,
and sometimes
you just nailed it right there. Crucial moment.
And I think sometimes as fans, and this is hard for me too, not just in high school, with Lowville having a close loss recently, but in any level as a fan, I think sometimes when my team loses, I always think about what we did wrong. And sometimes you just have to give credit to the other opponent. I mean, they're trying just as hard to win too. And I think sometimes as a fan, at least me personally, I forget about that. So,
And you hit the nail on the head with that phrase, crucial moment, right? Because when Struthers really, really, really needed defense, all of a sudden they couldn't get a stop. And that was the crucial moment. South Range went on the 12-0 run in about 5 minutes of game time. So you look at that, they held South Range to 26 points through 3 quarters and change. That's super impressive to hold the team to that. But it was just that last stretch where they just needed one or two stops, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't keep South Range out of the paint. Landon Moore got a couple of big buckets in the paint. Nate Lewis hits a 3. All of a sudden, it's a 2-point game. Landon Moore ties it up with an offensive rebound, and then it's tied up. And once again, Nate Lewis just comes in, drives to the elbow, gets a little mid-range jumper from the foul line to fall. It was like all the defense almost, I don't want to say it went away, but they just couldn't get a stop when they really, really needed to stop. Even that last one, you stop the Raiders there, you go into overtime, you might win that game.
It's pretty it's wild though that you said in your article this morning that Struthers got a pretty good look considering they only had that 1 second.
That's why I praised the referees on the broadcast. Everyone was celebrating. South Range was going nuts, but they came together as a group and said, wait a minute, he hit that shot well before the buzzer. Coach Wernicke called the timeout. There should be about 1 second left on the clock. And they did a really good job to just, group together, ignore the excitement in the gym and put 1 second back on the clock because you don't want to rob Struthers of that opportunity, right? It's not a good opportunity. It's not a great look, but it's an opportunity. We've seen crazy things happen. So they threw a pass up to the sideline. The kid got a half-court heave that was pretty clean. Looked like it was on line, just a little bit, off the strength, too hard. But you want to have that opportunity. If that goes in, it's one of the miraculous things. And if they would have robbed them of that by not getting together and saying there should be 1 second left on the clock, then that wouldn't have happened. So I give major props to the Zebras. I know they get a lot of hate. Referees always get trashed on. But I thought, one, they called a really good game last night, and two, that ability to kind of ignore all the excitement and just get together as a group and say, hey, we need to put 1 second back on this clock because that's what happened. Lewis hit the shot, Wernicke called the timeout, and it was well before the buzzer when that shot went in. So there should have been time on the clock, and they did the right thing there.
You said last week that, and you said it again today, how as a fan or somebody that's calling a basketball game, you don't really care about the way it's the style of the game and whether it's a barn burner or you're seeing just a defensive struggle. You just like good, clean basketball. Mm-hmm. But have you thought a lot about them? I'm sure we touched on it before, but refresh my memory. If you had one game where you made the key play at the end of the game, would you rather have put in the buzzer beater or make a game-winning block on the defensive end?
It's crazy. I've called what ended up being a game-saving block this year, and I've also called a game-winning shot. So it's so funny that you bring that up. Which one I'd rather do? Me, I like I'm kind of petty, so I like say, oh, you think you're going to hit the game-winning shot? Take this. So I'll take the block. I know a lot of people want the glory of hitting the shot, but I'll take taking what the other team thinks is about to be a moment for glory and taking it right out of their hands. I think that'd be fun.
We must be cut from the same cloth because I was thinking the same thing. I know you're not an NBA fan, but it might pain
sorry,
bringing
fans.
this up, but I always just think of that, like LeBron, the Cavs, the LeBron block in 20.
And honestly, that gets more like on the highlights more than Kyrie's shot that he had after that.
It does. I just like there's something more to me.
Now that block's a
And
special block.
you-
I mean, that's like one of the best blocks in basketball history.
yeah,
Coming from behind out of nowhere and just pinning that ball to the glass. I mean, but I get, no, I totally, I'm on the same page.
But there's just something more gratifying for me when it comes to like being able to like disappoint my opponent.
Right.
Or
It's
it's more than me getting,
especially if you're the away team,
raised up as a winner and being a king for the night. It's like I want the opposition booing me and hating me. I don't know. There's something just more gratifying about it. But and I know we only got a few minutes left.
Mhm.
There's one other really quick thing. I was listening to your conversation off the air with Gary, and you were telling him about Ursuline this year and how they've really impressed you.
I think they're the most talented team in the Ysn family.
Yeah.
No, I told Gary, like, talent doesn't always mean everything, but talent wise, like pound for pound, I don't think there's anybody more talented than Ursuline.
What do you think? What do you see as their biggest maybe obstacle though?
Well,
the
Canfield put
rest
the
of the
blueprint
way.
on it. I mean, the way they played Ursuline, Canfield fans, they're all over our comment section. We beat Ursuline 58-50. What the heck, right? So that game, they kind of put out a blueprint. Like, this is how you slow down Ursuline a little bit. This is how you should play them. And I think that game, it was physicality. Like every great offense, you just don't give them room to kind of work, and you can slow them down a little bit. So I think if Ursuline runs up against a team that is athletically enough on 5-on-5 and can match up with them and not give them room, then that can give them trouble. But that's a lot easier said than done, Scotty. Let's go over the games that are going to be happening tonight before we get out of here. Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary coming to Ursuline on the girls' side. That'll be a really fun matchup. Matt Morrison is going to be traveling to Youngstown for that one. Big test for the Irish girls who have been streaking of late. AAC first place on the line in Boardman as Canfield comes to town. Richie Giuliano will be at that game calling that. Canton Central Catholic goes to Louisville, and our Louisville crew will have you there. Bob Burdick going to be headlining that. DJ Oakley will be down in Salem as Carrollton comes to town for an EBC matchup. Ty Bartell is at Austintown Fitch as Mentor will visit the Nest. Noah Ricks is at Howland as they'll welcome in East. And then also we'll be playing tonight, won't be on the network. East Liverpool travels to Southern. Quick note that Rootstown at Warren JFK Girls has been moved to tomorrow. So if you were looking to go to that, it'll be played tomorrow instead of tonight. We will have swimming on the network at 6 o'clock as North Ridgeville will be at Orange. And then we'll have bowling on the network in about an hour at 3 o'clock as Warren Harding goes to Struthers. Bowling, swimming, basketball. It's a big night on the network. Head over to ysnlive.com/live and check all that out. Tomorrow, Springfield fans should tune in because we have some Springfield girls basketball interviews that we're going to be able to share with you. We're going to have John Matese live on the show, head coach at 1:15. We'll also have a pre-recorded interview with JC Mullen, one of their senior stars, to talk with her tomorrow as well. So Tiger fans, don't miss tomorrow's Running Point. We'll recap all the night's action, and we'll preview the night as well like we always do. 1 to 2, don't miss it on ysnlive.com. Brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. I'm Anthony Hartwig, Scotty Mincher. We'll see you. Scotty, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much again for coming on.
Oh, thank you. It's always, I say it all the time, my favorite day of the week.
Favorite day. Hump day. All right, well, I'll see you next week, and I'll see you tomorrow.